So let's go ahead and get started, and let me introduce myself. So my name is Julie Cobb and I'm the Director for Professional Services here at Nearpod and Vocabulary. I've been in public education or I was in public education for 26 years prior to coming to Nearpod. I did deaf education, special education, and technology integration. I've been with Nearpod about 5 years, I think I said that, and so I'm really excited to share with you today. So we are going to be looking today at kind of planning for or looking towards summer and sort of beyond summer. So we know that when we kind of end one academic year, we usually immediately start thinking to the next year, and we start thinking about, what we might do, how we can support students, what summer break might look like. Do our students need some additional support during that time? How do I get ready for the next school year? How do we make sure that we start the school year off right? All those kinds of things are going through our heads even before this school year has even finished. And that's just sort of the life of the teacher. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, is how do we plan for that? And then how do we plan for getting started really strong into the next school year? I do want to remind you that you do have the opportunity to take notes today. So on your screen as a learner, if you are logged into the lesson, is a little bump out. It has a little piece of paper and a pencil. And so you can click on that bump out. It's going to give you a couple of options like email, Google Drive, or OneDrive. I recommend email, it's just easier. So you click on that email button, type in your email address, and when I end the session today, you are going to receive a document that has all of the slides, all of the links, and any notes that you might take in that panel that will open for you. If you don't take any notes, that's fine. You can just send it to your email, close that panel, and then when I end the lesson, you're going to get that document that has all of that information on it. This session is also being recorded, so you will be able to go back and access that recording later if you need those materials and if you are not in that live lesson in order to sign up for the notes. You can do this at any time during the session, so if you don't want to do it now, just change your mind, you can always go back, click that little button and tell it to send it to your email. Our learning objectives. So this is where we are going to focus. This is where we're going to spend the next, little less than 90 minutes. And so we want to look at this and kind of make sure that we are on track. So hopefully by this evening, not hopefully, you will be able to take away the following information. So you're going to understand kind of how to utilize the Nearpod Standards Aligned Content Library for really targeted summer learning and early learning in the school year when we come to the new school year. You're also going to look at how do we implement really engaging formative assessments to not only understand where student learning is at the moment, but to also perhaps learn a little bit more about your students. We'll talk about how we can do both. And then we're going to look at how do we leverage real-time insights to not only address learning gaps, because we know that unfortunately, many of our students come to us with learning gaps, but we also want to know how can we use those insights to really celebrate the achievements that they also come to us with. So we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to do both. As always, when you have professional development with Nearpod, we're always working towards those ISTE standards. So really setting a professional goal of learning and applying a new pedagogical approach with technology, and also looking at how you can use technology to design different formative assessments to really accommodate any learner's need. So here we go. We are ready to jump in. For those of you that have just joined us, welcome. So glad you are here. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is planning for summer and the new school year. Now, some of you, I know this time of year, I applaud you for continuing your learning, because sometimes it is hard to think at the next school year, but we know it's coming. We know it's going to be there. So whether you're looking at summer school and how you can support your students, or at summer interventions or summer programs, or if you're just thinking about some ideas for the new year and how you might meet your new students, those are the things that we are going to cover in this particular section. So first, let's start with if you're preparing for new students, whether those are in the summer, because you're teaching different students than you would during the school year, or you're looking at that new class that's coming in for next year. What are the resources that are available just to sort of get started so that you're not looking at a blank screen? And so there's a couple of resources that we're going to look at. We're going to look at some pacing guides that, or you have pacing guides that you might want to look at. We also have some lesson guides that I'm going to show you and help you get into. We're going to talk about how you can use those to differentiate for skill gaps. Like I said before, we know that students come to us with gaps on occasion. And so we just need to know, okay, if that happens, when that happens, I need to be ready. I don't want to have to then try and figure out how to help fill that gap. I want to know ahead of time. And then as we're thinking about all these resources, I do want you to also think about a plan to get to know the whole child. So we all know that our students are more than their academic records, and they're more than their test scores, and they're more than that grade that went on a report card. And so how can we use some of these resources that you'll find with Nearpod to also get to know that whole child? So the easiest way that I know to prepare is to have things that are already made. And so one of the things that we would like to offer you is we would like to offer you some summer lesson guides. Now, these are going to be, I'm going to see if I can do two things at once. Nope, but I can stop talking for just a minute. Here we go. So I'm going to give you the link to the same information that you're going to see on the screen if you are not in that live lesson. But we have put together some summer learning guides. And what these are is they are a way to sort of help you take the guesswork and the searching out of trying to find quick, quality lessons and activities. So I am going to click on the ELA one. So each of these images on your screen is a link to a PDF, and I would encourage you to click on all of them and download them because you're going to want to be able to access these very quickly after the session is over. But I'm going to click on the ELA one. So I'm going to click here, and all the guides are set up in a very similar fashion. They are K through 8 or K through 9, depending on the subject. We do primarily focus on those elementary or middle school grade bands because those are the ones that tend to be more skills focused and less specific content focused. Secondary tends to be a little bit more heavy on the content. So we focus on these. As you scroll through these, you're going to notice that you can select your grade. Now, you can just browse if you want to browse, but if you want to select your grade, you can click on it and it'll take you straight to that grade. And then we have a couple of weeks worth of information here for you. So week 1 for 4th grade is spelling and homonyms and synonyms, and week 2 is parts of speech. So we've kind of broken it down into different categories. These are not time bound. You can use these anytime you want. But if you are looking for, I need a way to organize some summer ideas or something, this might help you out. Underneath the day or the category, if you will, there's all kinds of links. Anything that is in orange is a full lesson. Now you'll notice there aren't quite as many of those because oftentimes full lessons is not what we're doing for summer interventions or for the first couple of weeks of school. But you will also find things that are in purple are videos. We know that videos are very interactive for students. They tend to gravitate to those videos. And then you'll find that the things that are in blue are going to be individual activities. These are just the quick formative pieces that we have, things like drag and drop, matching pairs, things like time to climb, our gamified quiz, all of those things that we've pre-made for you that focus on a particular skill or a particular topic. So for example, this one, there's a matching pairs on identifying the literary genre. So I'm going to click on that one just to see how it works. And it takes me straight there. I can look at it and go, yep, this is one I want to use. And I can simply add it to my lessons. I click the back arrow and it will take me back to my PDF. So I am going to give you just a minute here. We'll have some more structured work time in a minute, but I want you just for the moment to just simply download the PDF or PDFs that you need. So I'm going to make sure that you are in that lesson, make sure that you have access. There are 4 different PDFs. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to download those PDFs. Now we will come back to these and we will look at, some additional information, and you'll have time to explore. But I want to make sure that you get those downloaded so you have access to those. So I'll give you about a minute to get that done. So I'm sure we have a few people who are like, yeah, I'm good. I got this. I got a list of lessons. I'm good. Hold with me. Don't go anywhere yet. Because there are things that we're going to talk about as far as what you might be able to do with some of these lessons, and then what you might be able to do with some of the information that you gather from those. So hang with me for a little bit. So this is the first piece of information that I wanted you to have. This is, really timely information. These are brand new, hot off the presses for you for helping out as we move into that summer. But there's one other piece that I want to share with you. When I move forward in the lesson, it is going to take this off the screen. So if you have not gotten these, just know that I will make sure that you have that link. It is in the chat as well. But we are going to go ahead and move forward on this. So the other thing that I want to show you is a blog, because sometimes there's a lot of information out there, particularly on resources for teachers. Come see our resources, come get our resources. We've got free resources. And so I want to help you know and understand that you are getting really quality resources for these. These are not things that have just been put together at the last minute. So this will take you to our blog. We are not going to read it now, but I did want you to have the link if you want to go ahead and bookmark that so that you can come back and read it. This comes from our content team, and just kind of explaining the process that they go through and how they build these, and what are some of the research things that they do to make sure that these lessons are high quality and standards aligned. These lesson guides are linked here as well. So if you didn't get them, you can get them here also. But it just kind of gives you an overall look at all of the different types of lessons, the different types of games and activities that you're going to find in these lessons, and gives you some links to some of our favorites, lessons that we really like that we think you might enjoy as well. So bookmark that. Come back to that a little bit later on, and it will give you some additional information, or maybe it's information you want to share with a friend who's never used Nearpod before, but you can share with them a little bit about how our content works. So as I come back into my lesson, I want to give you a chance to experience one of these. And so when we are thinking about the activities that we're getting and that we're using and how we're using them, I want us to think about, is there a possibility that we could get more than just academic information? Is it possible that I could learn something about my students' personalities, or about their learning styles, or about just, them as a human being that I would like to get to know? And so I'm going to put us into an activity, and what I want you to do is I want you to pick a grade. So 3rd, 4th, 5th through about 8th grade. Pick a grade, either the one that was your favorite or the one that was your least favorite. Maybe you've got a student in that grade or you teach that grade, but I want you to pick a grade, and I want you to answer this question from that perspective. So as a 3rd grader, as a 4th grader, how might you answer this question? So here we go. So I want you to think about fictional characters, and I want you to post your response below. So there's 3 columns, and you have the opportunity, when you type your response here at the bottom, to click on the end of the response bar and choose which of the columns you're going to put your answer in. So I want you to think, share who is your favorite fictional character and why. I want you to think about, what fictional character would you want as your sidekick and why? And what fictional world would you want to live in and why? So I'm going to give you a minute to answer. If you can, put 1 in each one, but if there's one that you gravitate to, just make sure that when you type your answer, you choose the column that you want it to go to. Oh, Nancy Drew, Charlotte. Oh, I love it. Hermione. She's smart and a badass. You bet. Women can be both. Absolutely. Junie B. Jones. Best of both worlds. Aladdin as my sidekick. Oh, a magical fairy as my sidekick. Wouldn't that be lovely, particularly at, like lunch duty or something? They could clean up everything. Ooh, Minecraft, Harry Potter, love it. Look at all these characters. Oh, we found the images. Fabulous, fabulous. Ooh, gonna have an anime as a sidekick. Alfred the Butler, Flash, because we want to save some time. Oh, I love it. You guys are great. Now, currently, I have the names turned off. If I was teaching in a classroom with my students, particularly if they were new students to me, I would make sure that the names were turned off until we as a group got to know each other a little bit better. But when I go back to look at all of these, I will have the name. And so that will help me as I'm thinking about, who needs somebody who wants to be loyal and who is looking to have somebody who's magical, who would love to be in the world of Gotham, live in the world of Mary Poppins, steampunk. So lots of different places where people would like to go. Narnia, full of creativity. Yes, wouldn't want to live in a fictional world. Very, very cool answer. Thank you for pushing back on that. And you were able to do that without fear or worry that everybody would look at you. So thank you for being that seventh grader who said, I'm going to be different. All right. So lots of information here. We're going to come back to this actually in a little bit. We're going to come back around, but I just wanted you to kind of be thinking about, sometimes we can ask questions and we can learn a lot about our students. We can learn about a skill. I clearly know now that you all understand what's a fictional character versus what's a non-fictional person. And I've kind of got an idea about some of the books that you've read or some of the things that you watch or that sort of thing. All right, so thank you for participating. Thank you for taking on that middle school persona or that upper elementary school persona. Like I said, we'll come back to this and think more about this and process more a little bit later on in our session tonight. But what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our next session, or our next piece. So we've got all of these resources now. We have fabulous activities and lessons and all kinds of things that we can use. So what's next? What do we do with all of the resources that we have available? So that moves us into, how do we implement engaging formative assessments? How do we use them, and why are they important? I mean, why is it so important that I know my students and that I know where they are when it comes to the learning that we are experiencing? So when we're looking at the resources and we're looking at how do we use them, we need to know how to get to the learning that students have as quickly as possible, because time is super, super short when it comes to school, whether you're doing summer school or summer interventions, or whether you're, the first week of school. You don't have a lot of time. We need to get up and running, and so we need to make sure that we have it. And so we're going to start in a couple of different places. We've already got the resources that we have, so now we need to know what skills do my students need? How do I give them an opportunity, particularly right there at the beginning, to be successful? And then what are some other things that I'm learning from my students, such as their tech skills and collaboration skills and following directions? How do I work all of that into the activities that we have? So we are going to start with a resource that I have discovered recently, and I really wanted to make sure that you knew. So I don't know if you are aware, but Nearpod is part of a greater ecosystem that is under the umbrella of Renaissance. So you may have heard of Renaissance. Some of the Renaissance tools include STAR and Freckle and Mayan and those kinds of tools. And so we're all part of this ecosystem working together to support students and to support their learning. But knowing what part of the learning can be a really daunting task. Knowing what specific tasks you need, skills you need, can be a really daunting task. And so we want to make sure that whether you're teaching summer school or summer interventions for grades or content that you're not familiar with, or if you're trying to get a head start because you're switching grades and you want to look at the new content for next year and the new skills for next year, this is a tool that can help you do this. So what this is Renaissance has what we call focus skills. And these are the core skills that are the building blocks of student learning. And now it's easier than ever to find those. Now, when we talk about core skills, we're talking about skills versus standards. These are aligned to standards, and I'll show you where to find those. But right now we are talking about skills in particular. What do my students need to know? So we're going to go to Renaissance skills. So I'm going to click on this. And this is another one that I will put this link in the chat for you. If you are not in the lesson, there you go. You can go to that as well. So this is available to anyone. You do not have to have Nearpod. You do not have to have any one of the Renaissance tools. This is just something that we provide just to sort of help you wrap your head around what students need. You potentially have a pacing guide. You potentially have power skills or power standards or something in your school that could also help you. But if not, this is something that you might be interested in. So we're going to scroll down on this because I want to kind of give you an overview. So we're talking about the focus skills. They are critical to learning. These are things that, you know, help us move from one step to the next. They can be very impactful because they are oftentimes prerequisites for future learning, and they are standards based. And so you will be able to connect them with that standard. It just simply pulls the skill out of that wording. As you scroll on down, I'll leave you to watch these later on, but as you scroll on down, I want you to find where it says focus skills by the number. And this is where, if you are working with students in a grade level you're not familiar with, or you're getting ready to move to a different grade level, this can be so helpful. Now, mine has already defaulted to Arkansas. Yes, Arkansas is where I live, and that's where mine defaults to. However, if I wanted to look at a different state, I totally could. And so you can look at whatever state you would like. Hopefully, yours defaulted to your state, but if not, you can go and find your state. It also has literacy and math. So you can choose, it defaults to literacy, but you can also choose math if that is more what you teach, related to what you teach. Currently, it is only literacy and math. But if you are not necessarily an English teacher or a math teacher, I'm pretty sure that these things come up in all the subjects. I know literacy does, and math comes up a lot in other subjects as well. So I think you can find some things. So what you'll see is you've got the domains here, and they are color-coded. And then on the data to the right, you have all of the grade bands. And so you can hover over a grade band. So let's look at third grade. Third grade is one of those pivotal years. For third grade, for literacy, this has said there are 24 very specific skills that we think third graders ought to know. And so we can click view. And it's going to go into that list of skills. Well, my internet is being slow today. There we go. All right, so it goes into that list of skills, and then I can drill down. And it changed me to Wisconsin, no worries. Oh, there we go, changed me back. All right, I can drill down into those. So in literature, there are two. Oh, look, characters and movies and sequence of events. And we talked about that a minute ago. And if I'm looking at reading for information, there are 4 skills here that are really key pivotal skills that students in that grade need to know. And so I'm going to give you a minute to kind of look through this. But one of the things that you can do is you can actually use this standard after the grade, whatever's after the grade. You could actually use this standard in order to find other things in Nearpod, if you choose to. But click around for just a moment. Also, I encourage you to bookmark this, because this is going to be something I think as you've got time later on, you might want to come back and visit, particularly if you're like, okay, what are some of the skills that my students need? The coolest thing about this, though, is I can back up a grade. So I can say, you know what, my kids are going to be in 3rd grade, but they're coming from 2nd. What are those skills? What are those focus skills that I want to ensure that my students have when they're coming in, or that I should be on the lookout for when they're coming in? So I could go to reading comprehension and I could look at some of those there as well. So it's super easy to find things. I will show you what math looks like. So I'm going to go back to all the focus skills. I can click on math. There we go. Math is considerably larger when it comes to the number of domains, because math always has to be a little bit complicated sometimes, I think. There it goes. And so it works the same way. I can hover over a grade band. You can see how we've got basic skills here, not quite so many, but we get to something like Algebra 1 and all of those skills come together. So I'm going to give you about another 30 seconds to kind of play around in this site. Make sure that you click that bookmark so that you can come back to it later on, so you don't have to get back into the Nearpod lesson, although it will be in the Nearpod lesson if you are taking notes. Give you just another 30 seconds to look around, and then we're going to try some of the things. We're going to try a couple of different types of activities from Nearpod that would meet one of those skills, or that could give you information about some of those skills. All right, so hopefully you are back in the Nearpod lesson with me. So here's what we're going to do. I have put in, let's see, 1, 2, 3 different activities. And so in order to make this a little bit easier, I am going to turn on the student paced option here. Let me make sure I've got the 16 through 18. There we go. I'm going to turn on the student paced option. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to play with whichever one of these that you want. Do you want to work on matching pairs for some vocabulary? Would you like to explore area with a PhET simulation? Personally, I'd be starting at level 1, but if you want to start at level 6, you just go. And you can also play with a drag and drop. Make sure you read those instructions, because it does give you some information, and it does ask you to add your own creation as well. So I'm going to set a 4-minute timer so I don't rush you. And I'd like for you to play with at least 1, maybe 2 of these if you have time to do so. I'm going to set my timer. And you can now move between these independent of me. Got about 1 more minute left. So if you want to try another one, go for it. So you will notice as you are working, even though you are in student-paced mode, I can still see all of the work that you are doing. So I might need to do different things for different students to get to know my group, to get to know my students and to get to know where they are in their learning. I can do that all at the same time, and I can just move back and forth. The PhET simulation is more designed for exploration. It does not produce a product that I can look at as a teacher, but I can kind of see over my student's shoulder, kind of see how they're working as I'm walking around the room. So I am going to go ahead and turn off the student paste. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring you to the drag and drop where I am. So if you're already there, no worries. If you're not, it pulled you in. One of the things that we want to do sometimes with our students is we want to celebrate the wins. And so maybe I give these to my students and I've built these so perhaps they are slightly a prerequisite, or maybe it's not exactly what they have to do now, but it's something that hopefully they came in with. And so I can give some feedback. So I'm going to click on one of these and I can say, oh, yep, this one's got it. Again, I would not be able to see the names in front of my students, but I could stop sharing my screen or just not share my screen, and I would be able to see that information. All right. So I want to kind of hear from you. So what did you notice about these things? What did you notice about the academic skills you could have learned from those things? None of them were specifically a content, except maybe the PhET simulation. They were a little bit broad, but what are some academic things that you could discover using those types of simple activities? This time when you post on the Collaborate board, there's not any columns, it's just all on the same space. Oh, there you go. Having choices is powerful. So it kind of, does a student gravitate to the matching pairs that might be a little bit simpler to manage technology-wise? Or did they go to the PhET simulation just because it looks cool and kind of flashy? What can you know, matching, yep, it's a good for reinforcement. You know fairly quickly if they understood all of the vocabulary words. So if I needed just a quick, do you guys know these words before we start talking about them? I can find that out. Yes, using it similar to a choice board. You can build a choice board, but yeah, this is kind of a quick way. Tell a lot about the quiet ones. Absolutely. I may not have a student who's willing to answer, and I may not get everything I need to get from the universal screener. Doing a universal screener is also going to be really important, but that may not tell me the same types of things that I might learn from something like this. Opportunity to retry, yes. We don't want to start the year or start the summer. They're probably already, if they're going to summer school, they already know they have a deficit or they have an area of need. We want to start with some celebrations. What can you do? And this allows students to show what they can do, but it also allows me to see where are the issues. Student-centered, that's right. That's right. all of those activities were pre-made activities in Nearpod. I didn't create any of them. So those are the types of things that you can find when you are looking through either our lesson guides or when you pop in a standard and search for something that you might be able to find with that. Nice. With elective courses. Yeah, you can, I mean, Nearpod is only limited by your own imagination. That's pretty much the only limitation to it. So brings fun. Yeah. All right. So clearly, you learned a lot about what you could learn about your students from this. And, you know, it takes it beyond just your typical, I'm going to give you a quiz and see what you know. We were able to really gather a lot of information. So we're going to have a little bit of a pause, and we're going to look at some of the resources in more detail, but I'm going to give you a task. And here is something that I want you to kind of think about, and we're going to take just a few minutes to do. So this is going to pull you out of here. Question, are any of these activities available in other languages like Spanish? We do have quite a few activities and lessons that are in Spanish to teach Spanish. What we also have is what's called Microsoft Immersive Reader. So let me go back just a moment. I can use drag and drop. So as a student, you have in the top right corner, you have a little book and speaker. Now, what this will do is it will allow you to translate the instructions. Unfortunately, at the moment, we can't translate what's on the slide. You could, however, edit this before you gave it to your students, and you could make new draggables. So you could use the same basic template, but you could put these words in Spanish on your own. But if the instructions is sort of what you're looking for those who maybe need a little extra support, they can click on this immersive reader. It pulls all of those instructions into the immersive reader tab, and it starts by just basically reading it out loud.
Every job requires a specific set of work skills.
Now, if they need that in a different language, then over here under reading preferences, again, that little book in the top right corner, you have the opportunity to choose a language. So if Spanish is the language, nope, there we go. There's a couple of different ones, whether it's Latin America, Mexico, or Spain. And then you can tell it to do the whole document, and it will translate and read the whole document.
Cada trabajo requiere un conjunto específico de habilidades laborales.
The student does this, so it takes a little bit to teach them the process, but once you teach them the process, then they can do this independent of you, and they can do it on anything that has directions or any slides that are built directly in Nearpod. So not in Google or PowerPoint, but in Nearpod specifically. If you need more information about the immersive reader or about the lessons that are in Spanish, then I'm going to call on one of my colleagues in the chat to go ahead and provide some information there for you, just in case. All right, so let's go to a little bit of work time. So here's what I want you to think about. So I want you to think about the top 5 skills that you wish 100% of your students know when they come to your class. If you've been teaching a while, you know that oftentimes there are some gaps. So think about those skills. And if you need kind of a refresher, I'm new to teaching, I'm new to 3rd grade, I'm going to 4th grade, I don't know what they're supposed to know, go back to those Renaissance focus skills. But think about those 5 things. I want you to pick one, just one, and jot that down in your note section or just on a little piece of paper or something like that. And think about, do you know the prerequisite skills that's needed to be successful for that particular skill? And we're going to take a minute and we're going to go into the Nearpod platform. And we're going to take some time. I'm going to show you how to find things. And I want you to think about how you might find an assessment that lets them celebrate what they know. So maybe find one on the prerequisite skill we hope they have, so they can celebrate what they know, and then find one that is going to allow you to assess kind of what they need to know. Where are they next? So this will be on the Nearpod screen. I'm going to open up my Nearpod account. So I'm going to spend most of the time right here in the Nearpod library. So I am going to go ahead and go to the Nearpod library. And as I'm thinking about it, I want to search by standard, but I don't really know all of the skills that a particular grade might need. So I can go back to this focus skills for Renaissance. And this is math. I was an English teacher, so I am going to switch it back to literacy because that's just sort of something I'm more familiar with. Let's see, first grade is a grade I've never taught. So I'm going to click on first grade and let me see kind of what some of the skills are that they need. So if we're looking at, let's say reading literature. Explain general, major events, key details. Okay, key details seems to me like it should be a really important skill. So I'm going to copy this right here. I don't necessarily, well, I may copy the grade just in case. So I don't need the ELA and I don't need Arkansas. It'll know, Nearpod will know. So I'm just going to copy that. So right click and copy. I'm going to go to my Nearpod. So I'm in Arkansas. I am looking for language arts. I chose grade 1. Now, grade 1 is going to give me a lot of responses and a lot of lists right here, but there's this little search within the standard. And I'm going to click that and looky there, right there. That says the setting and the who and the where and the text events. Okay, that's the skill I'm looking for. And now I have all of these activities. I have all of these ways in which I can assess or we can practice that particular skill. So if I find one that I want, so let's say here's a drag and drop on characters and events. So that might be kind of cool. So I'm going to go ahead and click add to my lesson. And if I go back to my lessons, there it is right there. There's the lesson that I could use. I can edit that lesson. I can preview it. I can look at it. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute because I've been talking for a little bit. I am going to we're going to start with 5 minutes, but we may go a little bit longer. It depends on what I'm seeing in the chat. So we're going to set a 5-minute timer, and I want you to think about those skills. Find that one skill that you just, I wish everybody had it. What is the prerequisite? And let's find some activities that can either let us celebrate that we do have the prerequisite or help us practice the focus skill that you thought of. I will put this back up for you so that you remember the task, and I'm setting my timer. If you don't teach a core subject and you're not necessarily working on individual skills like this, there are other ways to search the library. So for those that might need that, you can search by grade. You can also search by content type. So if it's do you want a whole video or a whole lesson or an activity? My favorite is to search by publisher. So if you want to kind of peruse the publishers and see what's there, you can do that as well. If you are new to Nearpod and you're like, yeah, I found my Nearpod account, but that's all I can do. I should have put this up a minute ago and I apologize, but you can download this PDF. So this PDF is going to give you a few step-by-step guides for just some of the basics. How do you find something? How do you search the library? How do you, make one of those assessments? If I can't find a quiz or I can't find matching pairs that I like, how do I make one? So this information is here for you. You're welcome to download that. These are all live links, so they will take you to where you might go to find information. So for example, searching the library, it'll tell you that there. I apologize, I should have put that up at the beginning, but go ahead, you can download that so that you will have it for later on. So if you get stuck and you're like, I can't remember what that girl said or where she said I could find it, then you can use this and that will sort of help guide you along the way. So we are going to move on to our last piece. And so we're going to move on to taking that data and all that data that we've got, because we're going to get data from a multitude of places. So they're standardized test scores and the scores that were in their folder and last year's report card and this year's report card. And we're going to turn that into information. We're going to put some context around it, and then we're going to turn that into action, because, you know, data is just a pile of things until you actually do something with it. And so we want to look at what is it that we need to do in order to move from data to information to action. One of those things is going to be using the post-session reports, and we're gonna talk about that. But before we get into that, we need to be prepared for these common gaps. We unfortunately know our students are going to come with us with gaps, and so being prepared with the right resources at the right moment for that just-in-time learning, something that we can hand to that student or sit down with that student in a small group and work through that right at that moment, is going to be super helpful. But to do that, you're going to have to be organized. And one of those places that you're going to want to be organized is in Nearpod. And so we have a couple of new ways and new options to help you be organized with all of the resources. If you're looking at all of the lessons that come from the lesson guides and the lessons that are in the library and lessons that you create, you could be talking about thousands of lessons that you might have to sift through. And so when you figure out that a student has a gap, that's not the time to be sifting through those. So let's talk about getting organized. So one of the things that you can do if you are not new to Nearpod, this has been here a while, is you can have folders in your lessons or in your lesson library. So I have all kinds of folders. But if you haven't noticed recently, the folders now have these little boxes on them, the select box, as do all of the lessons. And so now, to help you kind of get organized so that you have all of that learning and that planning and those activities really set so that you can find them, you now can move these around one at a time. I could pick it up and drag it, or you can now move them around in bulk. So I have gathered all of these things about, let's see, and I got rid of a whole bunch of them just the other day, but we're gonna say, okay, I've gathered all of these activities and I need all of these activities to go to the same folder because I wanna have them ready. I wanna be set. I wanna be organized so that I do not have to have, you know, the same level of stress. So I can select up to 30 different lessons, or I can select up to 5 different folders, and I can move those all at the same time. So I've found all of my activities that I want. I'm going to click them. I'm going to click move, and then I'm going to decide where I want them to go. So for now, I am going to put them in my demo folder, and I'm going to move. All of those move all at the same time. It tells me right up here where I put them. And so then I can go back and I can find those later. So I might have a folder for comprehension for reading. I might have a folder for math facts. I might have a folder for critical thinking. However you choose to set it up, you can set up these folders. To create a folder, there's just this little plus button right up here. So you can create a folder, give it a name, color code the folders if you would like, so that you are set and ready to go for either your summer learning or to get your year off to a really good start. So that's organizing. So, and this is just a little picture to kind of help you remember. So what I want you to do is in your own Nearpod account, if you do not already have folders, go ahead and create one. Click on that little create a new folder. We're going to call this summer planning. And we're going to click create. It does default to putting those folders in alphabetical order. So that makes it a little bit easier to find. So it's taking mine a little bit longer. There we go. So I go down here and there's my summer school planning. I'm going to click on that folder. There's not anything in it right away. If I want to add a lesson, I can click add lessons, and it's going to let me pick any of the lessons that I want to pull and put in that folder. I prefer just to do them from the front and stick them in. It also up here, I can give it a color. It's a nice sunny yellow, so we'll make it yellow. I can change the name, all that kind of good stuff. And then I can put whatever lessons I need into my summer planning folder. So hopefully you've had a chance to make a folder. And if you want to move that lesson that you just found, so I just found this character one, I can either drag it into the folder, or I can click on that button, I can click move, and I can put it in my summer school, summer planning folder. There we go. So that's the first thing. As we are, kind of wrapping things up here, keeping things organized is going to help. It's going to help you, it's going to help your students. And so we just wanted to kind of throw that in there just in case you hadn't seen it, and also just to make sure that you, when that learning need happens, you are prepared and ready to go, and you don't have to scramble for the lesson. The other thing I want us to think about is I want us to think about, more than just the whole child, or more than just the academics. We want to think about the whole child. So you remember this activity that we did earlier. We talked about all of the, the different fictional characters and everything. I'm going to go back to that collaborate board because I want us to think through this in a slightly different way. So I'm going to go right back here. And let's look at these responses. And you can scroll through the responses as well. But think about for just a moment, and if you want to jot them down, we'll put them on a collaborate board in a minute, but I want you to kind of think about what are some other things you can know about your students based on what they tell you about fictional characters? Is there anything you can learn from this beyond just they understand fiction versus nonfiction? And beyond just they can answer a question? Can you learn anything about their technology skills or their writing skills? And can you learn about the student themselves? So with that in mind, this time we're going to answer the collaborate board on what are the non-academic things that you can discover about either your new summer school students or about your new school year students with some of these ideas, some of these activities. Okay, the tech, I messed up the columns, and that's good information to know because either I needed to explain it better, or perhaps I've got a student who's not as comfortable with tech, and so I need to be able to talk about that. If they have a sense of humor, absolutely. We find out about their interests. Yeah. Some are maybe more willing to share their likes and their dislikes, their sentence structure. Yeah. Their background knowledge. Yeah. Are they familiar with things that, are older things, or are they familiar with the most new things? Check in and give feedback on their emotional health and well-being. Yeah. Are all the characters that they talked about dark, or are they happy and light characters? Personality, levels of exposure to literature. Yeah, I'm not getting that from a basic quiz or a basic, universal screener on their level of exposure to literature. I'm not going to get that. Are they organized? Can they talk about these kinds of things? Their priorities and what the character traits are that they value. So basically, just to kind of pull it together here, one of the things that you can get from this is really an opportunity to get to know your students beyond those test scores. Those test scores are super important, and those are what we are oftentimes held accountable for. But what we want to also be accountable for is making sure that we are connecting with our students and that we are supporting that whole child as they are coming to us either for that additional assistance during summer or if we are getting ready to start the new school year off. Another way that you can get information is going to be through those post-session reports, like I mentioned. But a great way, and thank you so much for these responses. I'm gonna move off the board here real quick, but thank you so much for that. Another way to look at this is through the post-session reports. But in the post-session reports in Nearpod, so if I go to my reports here on the left-hand side, and I go, it's going to pull my reports. And so I go down here, let's go down here to one I did over earlier this year. Nope, this won't work. When I go into this one, and I go into any, I have this option for student reports. So I could click on student reports and I could say, hey, Lori, come on back. Let's sit down and let's go through last week's Nearpod lesson together. And let's look at some of the responses that you gave or some of the responses that you didn't. How come we didn't answer that one that day? Is something going on? Is something I can help you with? Let's look at how your sentence structure is going. Are you writing answers? You didn't write some of these answers. How come you didn't write some of these answers? And so you're able to have a conversation and let this report guide that conversation, because then it is about the evidence that that student provided instead of a judgment call or I just didn't do it right, or worse, just a grade that there's nothing I can do about. So this gives us a chance to really kind of continue that conversation, continue to learn about our students, and provide that learning discussion and that learning feedback as you go. So as we are kind of finishing up, I want to kind of think about all of the things that we've talked about. So I've shared a lot of information with you. We've talked about utilizing those Nearpod standards, how to find those standards, how to find specific skills if you want to go down that route. Implementing those formative assessments, thinking about how can I use just this one piece, just that one collaborate board, or just that one draw activity to learn more about the learning, but also to learn more about the student. And then clearly we want to know, what are the gaps? How do we fill them? How do we celebrate that achievement? I did notice on the collaborate board that some of you are a little bit newer to Nearpod. So I do want to provide you with some additional resources. And we have got some really fun stuff coming up this summer, because I know that summer learning and you're like, oh, we got to do more PD. But this is going to be a different kind of PD than what you have experienced, I'm hoping. So we do what we call PD by the pool. We offer these for from usually the 1st of June till about mid-August. We offer them every week. We rotate them so that they're offered at different times on different days. And so if you find one that you want to go to, or 2 or 3 that you want to go to, then we encourage you to go ahead, click on one of these links. So Nearpod for differentiation, utilizing generative AI tools to create text to support diverse learners. Okay, I'm interested in that. I can click on that, choose the date and time that works best for you. They are 1-hour sessions, so they are not going to take a whole lot of your time. If you can sneak away from the kids and the spouses and everything, or sneak away from the pool for an hour and then go back out to the pool and kind of think about what you've learned, this is a great opportunity for some summer professional development. So this will be in your lesson, and then I do not have the link handy. I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask, hopefully my colleagues have the link. I had all my other links, I apologize. They're going to put the link in the chat, so if you want to access this later, you can also do that. The other opportunity that we have for learning, and all of this is free, and you get certificates for all of this, so if you need to share it with your principals or what have you. The other opportunity for learning that I have is Camp Engage. So right now, you just need to save the date. And if you want to register ahead of time, you can certainly do that. but you don't necessarily have to register just yet. If you want to wait just a little bit, looks like that maybe didn't copy as well. Nope, it did not. We'll get a link for that as well. But if you click here, I think it'll work. I just couldn't copy it right. But basically, it is 3 days full of PD. You're going to get to learn all about the new things that are coming for back to school, the updates to Nearpod. I've got to see a sneak peek. I'm super excited about those. You're going to have professional development that is led by experts in the field, not only from our team, but also from some of our community members, some of our other partners in some of our other products. So we're excited about that. We're going to really double down on how this can really impact the learning that happens in your classroom, and you get to earn some PD and have some fun along the way. So this is another opportunity for you to join and learn a little bit more about Nearpod. So we are going to go ahead and wrap up. I want to say thank you so much for participating with me this evening in this lesson. I am going to, nope, don't have that either. I am going to hang on the line for a little while. If you have questions, please pop those into the Q&A box. I am sure that you guys, you guys have been accessing all kinds of questions, so perfect. And looks like everybody has been able to see things. So you need access for the PD by the pool. It should be a preview, but if it's not, we'll check the link and then you should be able to update. So you should be able to see it. Yes, all of this will be virtual. I apologize. I should have started with that. Yes, everything will be virtual. So no matter where you are or what time zone you are in, hopefully you can find something that works for you. We often have a whole lot of people who participate from all kinds of areas around the world who participate in these. So would love to have you join us. Well, thank you, Dolores. Appreciate that. The PD by the pool, yes, those are different than Camp Engage. Mandy, you may see one or two that overlap, but most of them you will see brand new stuff at Camp Engage. Let me see if I can get the PD by the pool one. These will, oh look, I think she just put up a new link, so that link should work. So try that one again. It will be a preview link, so it will look like this. You won't have access to the actual slide, but you will be able to see that. Ms. Roundtree, you don't need to sign in as long as you attended. GoToWebinar knows that you attended because you were part of the learning, so you're good. It will not let you click on the link. Okay, we will see if we can, we will see what we can do about getting this part of the follow-up. We'll see if we can get the lesson as part of the follow-up. We'll work on that. PD by the pool will start in June, and we'll be putting out lots more information. Keep watch on our social media feed, that sort of stuff. But yeah, it starts in June. Nearpod does have various options. There is a free version, and then there are 2 paid versions, and then there's school and district licenses. Everything you did today, with the exception of the drag and drop, can be done in a free version. All right, we are going to go ahead and close things down. Thank you so much, and we will look forward to learning with you another time. PD by the pool one. These will, oh look, I think she just put up a new link, so that link should work. So try that one again. It will be a preview link, so it will look like this. You won't have access to the actual slide, but you will be able to see that. Ms. Roundtree, you don't need to sign in as long as you attended. GoToWebinar knows that you attended because you were part of the learning, so you're good. It will not let you click on the link. Okay, we will see if we can, we will see what we can do about getting this part of the follow-up. We'll see if we can get the lesson as part of the follow-up. We'll work on that. PD by the pool will start in June, and we'll be putting out lots more information. Keep watch on our social media feed, that sort of stuff. But yeah, it starts in June. Nearpod does have various options. There is a free version, and then there are 2 paid versions, and then there's school and district licenses. everything you did today, with the exception of the drag and drop, can be done in a free version. All right, we are going to go ahead and close things down. Thank you so much, and we will look forward to learning with you another time.